Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective and authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Bradley.
We're back on a Monday night, and Chris, lots of good stuff to talk about. Obviously, Michigan handled business in a big way on Saturday. We'll get into all that. Some pretty bad news surrounding Ronnie Bell. Kind of looked that way on Saturday, and we did get confirmation today from Jim Harbaugh about his injury, so we'll talk more about that. But first, we're excited, man. We are joined by sophomore standout running back, player of the week, 100-yard rusher, two-time touchdown scorer in the opener. Mr. Blake Corum is back again on the Wolverine Digest podcast. Blake, thanks for the time again, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Well, let's start right there. I know Chris is going to get us going, but we just found out a little bit ago, player of the week. I don't know how much you guys really care about that, honestly, but it certainly must be a cool feeling, especially after the game and the performance you had on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it's an honor being a player of the week. There's a couple players of the week, so I'm one. Obviously, Ronnie Bell, he has to be one. The amazing catch he had, 2 catches he had, and punt return. And then you have a hard hat of the week, which they gave to Bastardas, our center. He did his thing this week. And then you had, obviously, Aiden and Dax. They did their thing on the defensive side. But it's an honor being up there with those guys, and Coach giving me the honor to be player of the week.
Well deserved. Chris, take it away. I know you got some stuff for Blake, and we'll get into his performance and everything that came with it.
Well, Blake, so I don't even know if you're aware of these things, but I'm just going to kind of read off some of the stats from Saturday. But, obviously you led all players with 212 all-purpose yards. You had 111 yards on the ground. It was your first 100-yard rushing game, 79 yards in the return game, 22 yards receiving. And you were the first Michigan player, which I was surprised by this. You were the first Michigan player since 2016 to have a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown in the same game, since Khalid Hill did that back in 2016. So, I mean, it was an impressive outing for you. I'm curious. I just want to know, what was that first game like? What was that week 1 game like? You got 109,000 plus at Michigan Stadium. You guys are back. What was it like?
Oh man, it was awesome. That was my first experience. Playing in a stadium that's packed to that capacity. But it was just a good feeling being back out there with my guys, going to war with them after all the hard work we put in spring ball in this off season, and so it definitely felt good, it felt really good.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a good feeling with 109 screaming at you while you're going in the end zone. Speaking of that, I mean, it was a big day for you, and you were making big plays all over the field. You made big plays on special teams, obviously, from the receiving standpoint and rushing. What was it about Saturday that allowed you to be so successful?
I couldn't have done none of it without the guys. The offensive linemen, they were real physical. That's something they took into the offseason, like, we're going to be a physical offensive line. That's what they did. That's what Coach Moore has taught them to do. And they applied it Saturday. So, with the offensive line firing off the ball like that, and, Cade making the right reads, and then, Coach Hart preparing the running backs on what to read and what fronts and where it might hit at. They made my job really easy, and so I give it to those guys. I give them the credit, really. But yeah.
Well, it looked pretty easy out there from where we were sitting. I mean, the crazy thing is, and this is kind of like a little side note, funny story, but so we're up in the press box, and it's my first time. It's my first year doing the games in the press box, and you're supposed to be a little bit reserved, and I was able to stay reserved, I think, until you took that first carry 18 yards, and I did some sort of outburst, and Brandon looked at me, and it was a little awkward. So you got me out of my seat. But you did mention Mike Hart, and I'm curious, what is it like? What was that first game like working with Mike Hart on the sidelines?
It was really good, because all the work we put in the off season, all the work we put in leading up to the game and studying their game plan, what blitzes they brought, it all paid off when we got into the field. Like, we knew exactly what they're going to do, and that's what they did. And then, during the game, if something went wrong or we saw something that we didn't see in film, right on the sideline. He'll draw it up for you. And so it was a good feeling having Coach Hart by our side and just really leading the way for us RBs.
I want to ask a little bit more about that. Obviously Hassan started the game, but then you
Right.
kind of got hot. I mean, you popped your first run was 18 yards, and then it looked like Coach Hart was kind of feeding the hot hand a little bit. And then at the end, you guys finished with 14 and 13 carries. I mean, you guys were both on the field contributing. I just wonder how constant is the communication between specifically you three, you, Hassan, and Coach Hart about who's going to be in, who's doing what, why is one guy going in? Like, what are those conversations like?
Well, I mean, I feel like me and H2, we don't really think about that. We know we're going to get our opportunities, and we're here for each other at the end of the day. So I mean, if one guy's doing better than the other, hey, leave him in. He's going to get tired. You can't play the whole game with just one running back. You need a 1-2 punch, and that's what H2 and I are. And then throwing Donovan in there. He did his thing as well. So I think we have a good running back room, and I like the way Coach Hart approached this first game. He did give the hot hand, but he also gave all of us opportunities. And I think it was a great thing he did.
And I wanted to ask one more thing. You said seeing fronts, where the run might hit. Right. I wonder how often do you feel before the ball's even snapped, like, oh, this one's about to work. I can tell something's good here, or the flip side of it, like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to have any space on this one. Like, how much are you seeing that before the snap?
Oh, I'm seeing it big time. You usually before the play, you don't want to guess where it's going to go, but you have a feeling like, all right, they're in a 3 down. Okay, we're running this play with the whoop, and then the blitz pickups. A lot of guys, they can't hold the water, so they're going to show it. It's just, the constant studying of what teams do and the way they approach the game, stuff like that. It's helped a lot, in the way I play my game.
Yeah, and one of the things you said during the offseason that you were really working on was your patience as a runner. And I think that there was one run actually where I saw you literally stop in the backfield and just sort of examine what was in front of you. I'm curious, what is that like when you're out there? I mean, I would think as somebody watching, you want to get through the line. Is it hard to be patient when you're trying to make those reads back there?
Sometimes you might want to take the first thing you see, but that might not be the correct read. So it's really important to stay patient. And, as you can see, probably this last game, there was probably a couple runs where I wasn't as patient as I should have been. But definitely last year, I felt like I wasn't a patient runner at all. The first thing I saw, I was taking. But I could definitely feel this weekend that the work that I put in this offseason and becoming more patient and really letting my the blocks happen and reading the right reads helped. I definitely feel like I can improve as always. I feel like I can always improve on something. And but I definitely feel like I was a more patient runner this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely translated on the field for sure. It looked smooth all day.
I wanted to ask, you had the 79, 80 yard, whatever it officially was, kick return as well. How much different is running back versus kick return? I mean, it's similar. You're looking for holes, you're looking for gaps, but it's different. I mean, you got like a 25-yard head start sometimes. I just wonder, does it feel faster? Is it a completely different vibe than when you get a handoff in the backfield? Because obviously you had success there as well.
Right. So that they kind of go hand in hand. When you're back there, you want to be patient, but they're coming. All of them are coming. So you're counting on your guys up front to get their blocks, and usually I feel like when I'm on kick return, the first thing I see, I'm taking. Because you got to think, I'm coming full steam. Like you said, I get 20 yards. It's a build-up sprint, basically. So I don't have time to be too patient. The first hole I see, I'm going to hit that thing. And whatever happens after that happens, And so Coach Jay, he does a phenomenal job with the special teams. And, the plan he draws up each week usually works. And that's what happened.
And I wanted to ask the kick return is sometimes called like one of the most exciting plays in football. I mean, it's like you said, it's all 11 coming, everybody at one guy, full head of steam. Does it feel more excited? Like you're back there, you're waiting, you settle under it, and you just got. I mean, you can see all 21 players basically in front of you on the whole field. That's different from taking a handoff.
Right. Yeah, it's an exciting feeling. They kicked it off to us first, and I could feel. When I went back there, I was next to the student section, and I could feel it, and they were amping me up.
We thought you were going to take it out no matter what. That's what we thought. We were like, he's taking it no matter what.
I was about to, but I had to make a smart decision. It probably wasn't the best decision. I take it out right then, doing that.
Real quick, one last thing on that. Is there kind of an unofficial rule? Like, if it's 3 or more yards deep, let's stay in there.
Yeah, I usually keep my feet. If it's 1 yard into the end zone, I'll take that thing out. But if it's beyond that, there's no point, Yeah, the second time they kicked it off, it was about 1 yard deep into the end zone. And it was time to ride. Being kick return, you see the whole field, and so I really like it back there. Yeah.
And you're close with Nikai Hill-Green, former. You guys were St. Francis teammates. He got his first start. Had a solid outing. I think he had 4 or 5 tackles out there. I mean, can you just kind of talk about what it was like for you seeing Nikai get that first start as well?
It was one of the moments that I'm like, yeah, my brother's really out there doing his thing, and cream always rises to the top. And so, I've seen him put in a bunch of work, He's always in the film. He's always studying. He's always taking advantage of every opportunity. And so seeing him out there, do his thing, I was like, yeah. I was really proud of the way he performed. And I thought he did a wonderful job. I just can't wait to see, he keeps building and building and building.
Yeah. So I threw a couple comments up there. I wasn't trying to throw you off your answer or your game. I think you can see those too. But
Blake for Heisman, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to ask about that, though. That's kind of why I did that leading into this question. There was a ton of praise for you after the game.
Mm-hmm.
Blake for Heisman. What Hunter Dickinson say? He's the next Reggie Bush or something like that.
College Reggie Bush.
Reggie Bush. Yeah. So. I mean, obviously, you must love that, especially another athlete like Hunter, and then all the fans just heaping that on you. But I mean, you're a young guy; you got to stay humble. You got to stay in there. What's that like? I mean, you see after the game, I'm sure your mentions are blowing up. You probably got a million text messages. Just how do you stay grounded through all that? Because, like you said, you felt the excitement from the fans. You did have a big game. It's got to be cool, but also kind of got to keep relaxed at the same time.
At the end of the day, I haven't done nothing yet. I haven't accomplished anything. I haven't done anything. And so, I mean, seeing those things are cool. Hunter, that's my dog. He's from the DMV. You just kind of push that to the side. I mean, I appreciate it. I appreciate, all the fans giving me praise and props and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I haven't done anything. I haven't accomplished any of my goals yet, but it's definitely a good feeling. But I mean, you just gotta remain humble and keep striving to be the best. And so that's what I do. Now it's week 2 now. All right, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do this week? Last week's gone. Let's make a statement this week. Let's make a statement the week after that. So you just leave that stuff in the past.
Now, I am curious, though. I'm an old guy, like I was saying. I'm 37 years old. I'm an old head. I'm curious, after a game like that, is your phone just exploding left and right? I mean, your name's all over social. I mean, do you got to turn it off? Do you have 2 different phones, like a private? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, your phone just blows up all day, all night. You got to put it on Do Not Disturb. But
you got guys like me saying, Blake, I got to talk to you. I got to.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, a lot of the things, you can't check what everyone says. Everyone's trying to get at you. I try to be a good guy and respond to a good amount of people. But I can't respond to everyone. Yeah. But it's a good feeling. But like I said, I haven't done anything yet. So yeah.
Humble. One of the things from the game that made a big splash on social media, the people that were watching it, JJ McCarthy. I mean, this kid goes out, he makes a throw across the field. I saw people trying to, I don't know if it was trigonometry. I don't know what they were trying to do to figure out how long the throw was. I think we settled on about 60 yards. I know it was impressive from our seat. It blew up on social media. What were you guys thinking on the sideline? Did you see the play? Was it as impressive, from your vantage point?
Did I see it? What? I saw him sling that thing. What was impressive to me was the stiff arm. I don't know if y'all caught that. He had to get out of the tackle.
Yeah.
Then he set his feet. He saw the receiver. He let that thing go. And as soon as he let it go, and Dalen took off. He scored. I just take off of the field. The ref ended up getting mad at me. He said, "You ain't got on. Get off the field." Hey, my bad. But JJ, he's good. He's good at what he does. He prepares well, and I can't wait to see what type of future he holds. He's gonna be bright. But that's the work he puts in. So what y'all saw, it's all the hard work and dedication he has to the game.
It's interesting. I noticed this during the game, and especially when I went back and watched you guys interact on the sideline. All through the offseason, we heard about chemistry and the brotherhood and the bond that you guys had. And I from a fan standpoint, I saw a lot of that on the sideline. I saw Cade McNamara come over and embrace J.J. McCarthy before he went in the game. Coach Harbaugh came over and did the same. When Donovan Edwards was out there running the ball hard, you guys were all, very supportive. Did you feel that during the game, like all that energy that was building up through the spring and the summer and the fall? Could you guys feel that in the game and on the sideline, that different feeling?
I feel like we don't have any energy vampires on our team. No one's sucking the blood out of us. And we all want each other to win. And I definitely felt that, we're brothers, you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, you want your brother to do good. Whether you're in, whether you're cheering on, it doesn't even matter. We just want to win. And when one person does good, we all do good, And so, I feel like, the camaraderie we had and the chemistry that we have definitely showed Saturday, now let's just keep going forward.
Yeah. And speaking of brotherhood, I got one more question, Brandon. Speaking of brotherhood, obviously an unfortunate situation with Ronnie Bell. The news comes out today that, he's going to be out for the remainder of the year. I guess when you guys initially found out, what's the vibe inside the locker room? What's kind of going through your guys' mind right now?
Everyone's just making sure he keeps his head up. He's going to be back. He's going to be back stronger than ever, actually. But when a guy like that goes down, it sucks. But now it's time for guys to step up. I have faith in all the other receivers, to step up. But Ronnie's good. He's going to be good. He's a captain. He's going to continue to be a captain. And whatever, the surgery, everything's repairable. So he's going to be good at the end of the day, and he's going to keep balling in the future. It sucks that it happened, but he was balling. He was about to have a hell of a year.
Yeah.
But,
ridiculous catch, that ridiculous sideline catch.
Better than Odell Beckham's catch.
It was up there. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Prayers up to Ronnie. I talked to him, but he's in good spirits. Everything happens for a reason. And we might not know the reason at the end of the day, but, he's going to be good.
I wanted to ask a little bit more about Ronnie. Coach Harbaugh said something today at the availability that I really liked. He said because Coach Harbaugh had a season-ending injury back in his day when he played, and he used that to kind of talk to Ronnie about it. And he said the best way to not get left out is to help out. And he said that Ronnie is like tailor-made for that kind of approach. I just wonder, you're around him every day. You're in the locker room with him. What is it that makes him – you don't ever want to get hurt, but what is it that makes him suited for an injury like this, that he's going to be able to persevere and help out still?
I think it's just, his mindset. He's a competitive guy. He wants to win. And even though he's not going to be able to, be out there on the field with us playing, he's still going to be on the field with us at the same time. He's going to be on the sideline coaching, cheering us up, telling us, hey, do this, whoop the whoop. Because, he's been in the game. He's been in tough situations in games and stuff like that. And so, Ronnie's just one of those guys. He just wants to win. He's a competitor. And, he's going to be able to handle this adversity really good. And I can't wait to see, how he comes back from this injury.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Blake, I can see you're rocking a BC2 shirt.
Yeah.
New messaging there. Is there anything behind the messaging on the shirt?
Yeah, I'm gonna have some apparel dropping real soon. BC2. It's one of my new logos along with Grind Fit. The deuce is loose. Deuce, not spelled like the regular deuce. It's DUCE, which means leader. So I'm definitely gonna have some apparel dropping real soon. So, it's my
NIL.
The deuce is loose, man. I like that. The little deuce.
You got any questions out there from the people?
Yeah, there are a couple actually. Obviously, the first one that comes to mind is Blake got the touchdown score and started for the whole season on a catch. And this person wanted to ask that you just look natural doing it. I don't remember. You can talk about this. I don't remember how often you did that at St. Francis. But how do how often are you practicing routes? How comfortable do you feel as a receiver, and how much how much do you work on that? How do you get better at that?
I mean, I feel like I'm an athlete, so I'm versatile in everything I do. Everything I do, I practice. So whether it be running the ball, I practice running, catching the ball, I practice catching. Just because I know I can move around wherever the coach needs me, I want to be available. So I practice catching all the time. I catch off the jug machines, whatever it may be. I practice catching quite a bit, and I can't wait to see how coach uses me from week in and week out.
I wanted to ask specifically on that touchdown reception. I'm sure the design was to get it out quick, but it seemed like Cade knew as soon as the ball was snapped, oh, this is it. I got to just get it over there as fast as I can. Sometimes you let those develop a little bit, but when that again, the question I asked earlier, before that ball was snapped, did you feel like, oh yeah, this is about to work? I can tell what they're in.
Yeah, you could tell. Cade. One thing Cade does. Well, Cade does a lot of things good, but one thing he does really good is he reads defenses. He puts in the time and effort week in and week out. And so from the jump, you could tell, even I could tell, all right, he's throwing this thing to me. Then I had really what set up that play was the receivers. Mikey Sangerstill, he went and cut block the corner, and that left me with the one-on-one matchup. And,
the rest is history.
You're going to win that. You're going to win that. Yeah, you can say it.
I'm going to win that matchup, yeah.
but yeah, I mean, that was really the receivers. It wasn't even me. They made, like I said, they made my job easy. So that's credit to them.
That had to be a cool feeling. What were you thinking? We talked about it at the beginning. Kind of the stadium's full again. You got almost 110,000 in the first score of the year, and it's you. I mean, as a kid who grew up watching so much football and playing it as a kid, I mean, obviously never on that level. I can't fathom what that must have felt like. What does that exact moment when you cross over the goal line feel like?
Man, it was just priceless. I didn't really even know what to think at the time. I was just trying to enjoy the moment.
You had the little high step into the end zone.
A high step. I threw a VA sign. I'm always trying.
Dude, I was going through the pictures, and it seemed like every picture I saw of Blake, he was never touching the ground. He was floating one way or another. Like his feet were never on the ground. It was insane.
But yeah, it was a good experience. And I plan on having many more. But it was good.
And you mentioned, I was gonna ask about this. You mentioned that it looked like Blake was floating just about all day. The little half dive ninja tuck roll into the end zone on the 30-yard touchdown run. Is that was that a style thing? Was that I don't want to get hit at the goal line thing? Was that walk us through that finishing move over the goal line for the rushing touchdown?
So I came through the hole, made the linebacker miss. My lineman. I can't remember who it was. They made it up to the second level. I cut off his butt. I saw the safety coming. I could have walked into the end zone.
You got to add a little something to it. Right?
At the end of the day, I could have walked into the end zone, but I figured I'd give it a little. It wasn't really a jump. It was a half jump.
It had it had a slight Marshawn Lynch vibe, but without the crotch grab. That's what it reminded me of. It's kind of like I flopped. I thought that was somebody. He did that on purpose. He didn't need to do that.
I definitely could have walked in.
That was great.
He wasn't going to touch me.
That we got Dad in the comments. Dad is in the comments. He's in the house.
Is he back? Is he back?
He's back. So what was that like? I mean, Blake, you I'm guessing your family was at the game. You had the opportunity to get with. I mean, what was their? They must have been just through the roof with excitement for you once they got to see you first after the game.
Oh yeah, I had a bunch of family there. I had my dad was there. Obviously, my mom, a couple of my sisters, my aunt, my uncle, my grandfather. So I had a couple of them at the game, and so what's good?
There goes Dad.
What's good? Shout out to him. But it was a good experience. I can't really tell you how they felt. They have to tell you that. But it was probably just as excited as I was, if not even more. But yeah.
Nice to have family back in the stadium, probably.
Yeah,
for sure.
heck yeah, man. That's one of the biggest things that we don't really talk about. I mean, these guys are, Blake, what are you 19, 20 years old? I mean, you got your family there again. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, man, that you guys didn't have last year.
Crazy thing, because this is what I dreamed of, coming out the entrance to a full stadium and stuff like that, and be able to live it out, with my family and stuff like that. There's my aunt. She was there. She was actually in the end zone I scored in. She was behind the goalpost, but it was just it was an amazing experience, because that's what me and my pops and my mom, we just always dreamed about it. I can't wait until that day, and the day happened. I can't wait for many more.
There you go.
I would imagine there's a lot of those little moments for you as you're going through this process where it's like, holy shit, like I'm doing this thing.
Right, yeah, for sure. You
turning the
it in the moment, but at the end of the day,
for sure. Turning the page a little bit. We got a couple more minutes with you here, and we'll let you go. Looking at Washington now, I don't know how much you guys have got to see about them yet on a Monday, but they really came out and one of the bigger upsets of the opening week. They lost to Montana. Nobody really saw that coming. A lot of guys were asked about it today. I think Brad Hawkins kind of summed it up the best. He said, we don't really care. Like, that game has nothing to do with us, and it's still Washington. They still got talent. I guess just, kind of echo that a little bit. What are you thinking as you prepare for them, and how much have you got to see of them so far?
I've watched quite a bit of film on them so far, but I take that with a grain of salt. Anyone can lose any given week. It's a game. Anybody can lose a game. So I'm taking this with the same mindset as it would be anybody. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, I take that with a grain of salt. I'm still going to approach the same. We're all going to approach the game the same way. And I mean, that's that. We're just going to approach the same way. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So we're going to study. We're going to know what they do, and we're going to apply some pressure come Saturday.
And on top of that, Coach Harbaugh actually mentioned today at the availability that you guys worked on Washington a little bit in fall camp, kind of combined it with some of the stuff getting ready for Western. What was that balance like, and how much did you work on what Washington's going to do? Like, how comfortable are you feeling at the beginning of the week right now?
I feel pretty comfortable just from, like you said, we worked on it for a couple of days. Because why wait, While we might as well work on some other teams while we can. But, I feel pretty comfortable by the end of the week. I'll feel real comfortable. And I'll be prepared, because when you prepare, that's when great things happen. So I'm going to prepare, and that's that.
There you go. Chris, anything else before we get him out of here?
No, I just, once again, appreciate you coming on, man. And, it's a pleasure to watch you run out there. I love the hard work mentality, the blue collar background. Like, it's just, it's a joy to watch you do your thing out there. And yeah, excited for what the rest of the season has in store for you.
I appreciate it. I can't wait either.
Well, Blake, you keep scoring touchdowns and having – actually, I wanted to ask one more thing. I just was going to say, scoring touchdown and getting 100-yard games and everything, we're going to have to – and Offensive Player of the Week, we're going to have to keep you coming back. At the end of the game, towards the end of the game, you were sitting on 13 carries and 99 yards. They put you back in to get that 100, didn't they?
They did. Coach told me to say get 1 yard. But I ended up getting I don't know, maybe 13.
12, yeah. Finish was 111, yeah. Yep.
I came to the sideline. Coach said, I said get 1. It's all fun and games. But yeah.
Well, that's special, man. You got to remember that first 100-yard game, and that's cool that they're paying attention, because that's a big deal, man. I mean, that goes in the record books forever. That's going to be next to your name for the rest of the time. So I thought that was pretty good. It was pretty obvious. I'm like, he ain't coming back in. I think Chris had started writing his article already, and they're like, damn, he just put Blake back in. I got to change my write-up now. So I'm like, they had to get him that 100 yards. So again, congrats on the success so far, Blake. Stay healthy, stay working, and we'll talk again soon.
For sure. I appreciate you guys. Go Blue.
All right. Take care, Blake. All right. Another great chat with Blake Corum. We had him on. Was he the first? No, he wasn't the first one who did the football feud, or was he?
He was the first.
I think he was. Yeah, because we didn't have it set up yet.
And you know what? The irony of it, he was the first, and he's at the bottom. Like, I think he's, I think
he's still in here listening too.
I think he's holding into that last spot. I don't know, Blake, if you're, if you want another crack at it, shoot me a message. We can try to do something. I think AJ Henning's up there. Roman Wilson's up there. Yeah.
That's
Blake's
funny, man.
Something tells me that
was it Jordan Morant? Who's at the top? Who's at the top?
Jordan Morant.
Jordan Morant finished at the top. So there you go.
Kitten did pretty well.
Awesome stuff from Blake. And, man, it's really cool, too, Chris, because you and I both, had been talking all offseason. He was kind of our, breakout player on offense, guy that we thought was going to get a lot of touches, a lot of opportunities, and we just really liked his skill set. And that came to fruition in a big, big way on Saturday. And, I can't say I was surprised, but, again, he just does some things that I don't know if every other back on the roster can do, but it was a 1-2 punch with him and Hassan. Again, they finished with 14 and 13 carries respectively, and then Donovan Edwards comes in and gets 6 or 7 carries or whatever he had and was pretty successful as well. I know Jim Harbaugh said that today. He said Donovan didn't carry it as much as the other two, but he felt like he was right there, about to break it a couple of times. I felt the same way about Blake a couple of times. We saw Roman Wilson on the end around was about to break a long one. Obviously, AJ Henning did break a long one. So they had a lot of big plays and a lot of close to big plays, and Jim Harbaugh mentioned that today. And, I don't know, man. It was fun to watch, and obviously when we have him on and we're talking to him and kind of getting to know him on a little bit of a level, it's just super cool to see him out there having success like that. So really, really cool for Blake, and super pumped that he decided to come back and talk to us again. So appreciate that from Blake and his whole family in here giving him support. Just a pretty cool thing. All right, let's turn back the clock just a little bit. On Friday, I believe it was Friday afternoon, I made a few predictions. Chris, we talked about them a little bit. I went 3 for 5. We did some over-unders as well. We didn't do so hot on the over-unders, I don't think. I know we talked about 4.5 tight end catches and 3 touchdown passes for Cade McNamara. We came up short on that. But the predictions that I had, Cade McNamara will throw at least 3 touchdown passes. He did not. He only had to throw the ball 11 times. When you only throw it 11 times and 2 of them are for scores, then JJ came in and got one. So it's almost like, you put those 2 quarterbacks together for a whole game. I was kind of in there a little bit, but came up a little short there. I guess talk about Cade real quick. We did that at right when the game got over on Saturday, but what do you think? All right, Cade went 9 for 11, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, took care of the ball, really smart, really efficient, was actually the highest graded Power 5 quarterback in the country, according to Pro Football Focus. What's he look like if he has to throw it 40 times this week?
That's the big question, and that's where I'm sitting at. Obviously, when you go, was it 9 for 11? I think it was.
Yep.
It's a solid day, but you're right. He wasn't really pushed. He wasn't up against it. And until you see him in that environment, it's kind of hard to tell what kind of quarterback Cade McNamara is. But for a week 1 performance, you really can't ask for more than what he did. He didn't turn the ball over. And that's something else that I think is interesting. I don't know what the stat is, but he's gone, 80 consecutive throws or something like that without a turnover. And so, even dating back to last year, he's been a consistent type of guy, but we just haven't seen him in a position. Well, I guess unless you're going to count Rutgers, where he had to take it to the next level, because he did. He came in on the road 17 down, and he did take it to the next level. So we saw it against Rutgers. We saw some good things against Western. We just, we had a shot to see it against Penn State, and the injury took that away from us. I think we'll learn a lot more about Cade next week, even though Washington isn't that good. They are a better team than Western Michigan, I believe that.
At least didn't look good in week 1. They're going on the road. It's one of those things. You see it a lot. All sports, all teams. There's the great teams don't do this, but a lot of teams play up and down to their opponent. It's very common across all levels of sports, all sports in general. And you kind of wonder, how serious did Washington take a Montana for the season opener, knowing they've got Michigan the next week? So I agree with Blake. I agree with the players we talked to today. That's they probably could play 50 more times and Washington might win all 50. Like Blake said, anybody can lose one game. So I think they still need to take that team very seriously. They have some NFL talent on that roster, and they're going to be gunning for Michigan. Whereas with Montana, they just weren't. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about it. You see it all the time, like I said, across all sports. So really interested to see how that one plays out. All right,
as a side note for that game, Giles Jackson was involved in the passing game, I think quite a bit. I think he had like 5 targets. So something to anticipate as a Michigan fan. If you're wondering, what was Jackson's involvement going to be, he's going to get some looks on the offensive side.
Oh, there you have it. Aiden Hutchinson will record 2 sacks. I said he had 1, and it was a big one. It was a strip sack. And he got a lot of pressure. He hit the quarterback quite a few times. He was in his face quite a bit. But again, I talked about it last week. I said, those damn sacks, man. Every time I predict them, I come up a little short. It's a really hard stat to get. I remember we had a little media event one time with Chris Hutchinson, Aiden's dad, who I think finished his best season ever with 11 or 11 and a half sacks. And I remember, I think Aiden was a freshman at the time. Chris was telling us a story where Aiden was like, how the hell did you get 11 sacks in one season? Like, it's a really hard thing to get to double-digit sacks or, above 10 sacks. And, Aiden's on his way. He's got 1, and I do think that new position is going to be good for him. We talked about this on Saturday, Chris, the adjustments from Mike McDonald and how the pressure seemed to ramp up. I mean, it's Western, but we were talking about how we were pretty encouraged by what we saw.
Yeah, encouraged by the fact that the first 2 drives for Western Michigan were over 10 plays, both of them. Now I know the second drive, it was either second or the first drive where there was that personal foul, penalty that led to the touchdown. But Western Michigan was driving the ball. They were methodical. They were dictating the pace, and they were moving the ball at will for those first 2 drives. And then you saw some of them adjustments, or Mike McDonald make some of the adjustments, and the defense locked him down for pretty much the remainder of the game. So that's the encouraging thing we saw. It looked a little bit shaky initially. You and I were even talking about it up in the press box that we made a comment about the defense and how this is what everybody was going to be focusing on. The first 2 drives looked shaky. But once they settled in, there were some things that I saw that was definitely encouraging. Aiden Hutchinson was one of them for sure.
Absolutely. Another one who was encouraging was Daxton Hill. I think he played 54 of his 57 snaps on the field was at nickel corner, pretty much covering Corey Crooms, I believe was the guy's name, number 4, the smaller slot, speedy wide receiver for Western. So Daxton Hill virtually played no safety. He was a nickel corner almost the entire game, and I asked Jim Harbaugh about that yesterday, today, and he kind of looked at me like I was dumb. Yes, Dax is our nickel. I'm like, okay, well, he wasn't last year. He kind of was. He played both last year, but it looks like, I mean, if they trust RJ Moten and he can hold that spot down back there alongside Brad Hawkins,
yeah, it
looks like Daxton Hill is pretty much a full-time cornerback at this point. And I predicted that he would get his hands on the ball. He broke up a pass. He did. I mean, he's just – I really can't wait for hhim to step in front of one and just have some open field to work with and see what he can do as an athlete. But he manages to be around the ball all the time, and he's just one of those guys. He's a ball hawk kind of guy. I'm sure when you grew up, man, you had some guys that you played sports with that were just like, damn, they're always making plays. They're always doing something. That's Dax Hill.
It was me. I was him.
That was you?
I was the guy.
Yes, me. That's one of those old things. If you don't know anybody like that, you're the one. Yeah, that's it. All right. Okay.
No, when it comes to Daxton Hill, he's like a Ferrari that has been in the garage. I haven't got to take it out yet and drive it fast. And I know he's super talented. I know he's capable of doing some great things. But he just hasn't had that monster breakout game where you're like, yeah, that's Daxton Hill. That's the guy, we were fighting so hard with Alabama to get. And that's not to take away anything from his game. I think he's solid in what he does and he plays his role well. But I just like to see him take it to that next level and have one of those breakout games where you're like, okay, yeah, he is that guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the talent. He's got all the talent. He kind of floats around the field. He's not the biggest dude, but he can hit. He can cover. He's super smart, super quick, can break on the ball, great ball skills. I mean, I remember talking to his high school coaches when he was being recruited by Michigan, when he was committed the first time around before he had the little roller coaster towards the end there. And they said, any position he wanted to play, he'd be maybe the best at the country at it. Wide receiver, running. His brother's in the NFL as a running back, so it's in the genes. And Dax has certainly got all the ability. But I'm with you, man. I mean, you can't really point to a huge splash play or a big breakout moment for him yet. And he's a junior now, so kind of waiting to see when that happens and what that looks like. But tons of ability. makes all the right plays, super smart, sound assignment football. He was co-defensive player of the week, I believe, with Aiden Hutchinson. So obviously the coaches liked what he did, and he graded out extremely well. All right, my other prediction, Donovan Edwards will touch the ball at least 5 times. He did. Came in late, just like we kind of talked about. If Michigan gets up, you sit Blake Corum down, you sit Hassan Haskins down, and give the ball to the young freshman quite a few times. And, I mean, we enjoyed watching him run that thing when he was in there.
I went back and watched the game last night, and I didn't realize how hard he was running. Like, I know he was close to breaking a couple, but if you hear people use the term like running angry or running violent, like that's what he was doing. Like, it was just he just looked like a big ball of anger out there, smashing anything that got in his way. And you could see that. I think what he's dealing with now is the same thing with what Blake was dealing with last year, is like wanting to hit that first hole and get through, and maybe learning a little more patience. That'll let him use that athleticism a little bit better. But man, he was physical, and he was popping some dudes on those runs.
He had a couple of those plays where he kind of twists at the last second to get like a fish on a boat or something, like squirting up for another yard or two, just always behind his pads. He's always played like that. I mean, that's how he put up video game numbers in high school, but looked really good. I mean, Jim Harbaugh had really good things to say about him today as well. And I think we're going to see him every game. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, winning by as much as they did against Western Gate was a prime opportunity to get him in there, JJ, some other young guys. But I feel like you need to give him a few touches every single week, regardless of the situation, regardless of the opponent. So we'll see how that looks against Washington. And last but not least, Michigan will cover the 17-point spread. They did. I was a little leery about that one early on, but they pulled away and they doubled it up. Actually, they kind of blew them out at the end. I guess Michigan typically is viewed as a not very good team against the spread. And I think we talked about it, a win by, 10 or so would be like, oh man, what are they doing? 15-19 would even still be like, I don't know, it should be better, or 20 or more. Pretty pleased. I guess that's where we're at, right? It's pretty obvious they were the far, far better team on Saturday.
Yeah. We were concerned about what that point spread was going to be, and were they going to look as dominant as a Michigan football team should look week 1 against Western Michigan. And even though it was a bit of a slow start, again, once they settled in, they got their sea legs. They put a hurting on them, and I know they gave up another touchdown there, but at the end of the day, they controlled that game pretty much from start to finish, and they shut down a team that likes to throw the ball all over the field. They didn't give up a lot of the big chunk plays. You didn't see them getting burned a lot. So overall, encouraging week 1 performance for sure.
Caleb Elby, talented quarterback on the radar for some NFL consideration, had one of the worst games of his career. So, I mean, Michigan far more talented, bigger, stronger, faster, just about everywhere, but still you got to play the game and you got to take care of business. And they absolutely did. So here we go.
I think in the post game, Elby referenced, they didn't know where Aiden Hutchinson was going to be, and that was one of the things that was confusing him and throwing him off. They obviously didn't have a chance to study game film on Michigan, but he did reference the fact that they expected Hutchinson to be one place, and he wasn't there. So you can kind of see McDonald's defense already sort of having a bit of an impact.
Mike McDonald, everybody. All right, segment. Here we go. Segment time. This fucking guy. This fucking guy.
Who is it? Who is it?
Darius Jefferson.
We know who it is.
What the hell is he doing?
Do we have a picture of it?
We
should have had a picture of it.
That would have been clutch. If you want to talk for a minute, I can probably get one going.
Well, I don't know how much there is to say. I mean, the dude apparently used to play for Michigan State. Things weren't working out there in East Lansing, so he transfers to Kalamazoo. He's with Western Michigan now, and scores a touchdown in the big house, and obviously wants to celebrate. He's excited, but you strike the Paul Bunyan pose. I don't know. That was to me, that was cringy. It was a bad look, and TFG, man, total TFG.
Yeah, I mean, and I think Donovan Peoples-Jones commented on oh, you need some work on that form there, bruh.
Somebody
Khalid
needs to tell
Hill.
him he transferred.
Yeah, Khalid Hill. That's what I said. I'm like, that's a weird flex. You don't play there anymore. What do you why are you? I don't know. It was bizarre. I remember as soon as he did it, I was like, okay, well,
I wasn't sure if that's what it was.
100%.
That's how bizarre it was. I wasn't sure. Like, did he really just do that?
100%. All right, I'll throw this is the best I can do on last notice right there, but for the people out there who are watching,
Can you see
for
that?
the people who are listening, Darius Jefferson
Awful.
doing some sort of combination of Paul Bunyan and Gumby in Michigan's end zone.
En route to a 47-14 beatdown. So.
En route to a beatdown. So yeah, that was the
good for him
down,
though, man. That was probably a moment for him.
Guy.
He's going to remember that moment probably for the rest of his life. So
we we don't talk about those ahead of time because we want to see if, we just want to leave everything wide open and see who we can come up with. And we both had the same guy. Honorable mention.
This guy.
Brian Kelly talking about killing people. Cool. I heard him say it last night. I watched the game, had a little bit of action on the game, won, whatever. But he came after the game and had this weird comment about executing his team. And he said it was a paying homage to a joke that an old coach made. The coach's name is escaping me right now. Do you remember the guy's name?
Don't remember.
Coached the Buccaneers, 0-14. Back in the day, I think it was literally in the 70s. A reporter asked that coach, what did you think? What did you think of the execution of your team? And he said, "I'm for it." Like, that's funny. That's timely. That's a good, smart answer. And then Brian Kelly tried to do the same type of thing, only he brought up execution, and it took him about 5 minutes to explain the punchline. And oh, by the way, Brian, you won the game, and you kind of. John McKay, thank you. One of our listeners and our viewers is paying attention. John McKay, old coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh yeah, by the way, Brian Kelly, a kid died at your practice. Might not wanna do it. On the one extreme end, though, people who thought he should be like, I don't know if anybody said fired. I think I did see some people saying he should be suspended or he should have to issue a form. I'm like, come on, man. It was a stupid thing to say. It wasn't funny, and you just won. So how about you don't be a dick? Like, that's basically all I saw.
We talked about that before we got on the air, and I feel like, I get wanting to like be respectful of people, but there's also people are allowed to say dumb things, and they're allowed to make mistakes, and it's like, I don't know. I just didn't see it as a big deal. I did, however, hear the comment live and was like, on my DVR, I rewound it. I was like, what? That was kind of weird. But so, yeah, it was one of those moments where you're right. Part of comedy, being good at comedy, is good timing and good execution. And if he was trying to be funny, I mean, that's what he's guilty of. That was just not funny, and it didn't come off well.
Yeah, it just again, I don't think you can't set up your own joke and then also provide the punchline. That's not really how that works. But anyway,
and he's
whatever.
Another one of those guys that I just don't like. So, I'm already going into the conversation with a bit of a negative taste. So it doesn't take much for me to go in on Brian Kelly.
I think we've all got people that we know in our life that aren't funny, and when they try to be, it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like, just whatever your thing is, do that. Yeah. Brian Kelly, you're not funny. No one ever says anything about him being funny or having like a great personality. So don't just yell at people and turn red. That's what you do. That's be good at that and pack it in and be happy with a pretty big win. I mean, it was, Florida State is certainly on the upswing. They played a tough game and they were at home. Doak Campbell's an amazing venue. They came storming back. Great story with Mackenzie Milton, by the way, the quarterback who damn near lost his leg. And then comes in and leads a comeback, but fell a little bit short. Notre Dame wins by 3 in overtime. Brian Kelly puts his foot in his mouth. All right, moving on to Ronnie Bell, man. Just a horrible development. Horrible development. Ronnie Bell, before the season started, was described as maybe everyone's favorite player on the team. He's a fan favorite. You love his story, how he got to Michigan, how under-recruited he was, and how freaking good he is now. And then makes an incredible, one-handed grab that you just don't make. I mean, insane. Never even brought it into the rest of his body, just kept it away from his arm. Yeah. Bogus offensive pass interference call on that play, so it doesn't count, but still an amazing feat. The 76-yard touchdown pass catch where he basically just walked into the end zone. And then a really nice punt return where he got hurt his knee. Been speculated that it's an ACL. Jim Harbaugh did not confirm that. He didn't say ACL, but he said out for the season with a knee injury. Sucks. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, you I texted you right away. I said, yo, this sucks. Get this story up. I hate it. And I'm sure while you were writing it, you were feeling the same way.
Yeah, and it's been a feeling I've had since the game on Saturday. I mean, you could feel like
he knew.
weird.
Yeah.
He knew. Everybody, there was just this like jovial atmosphere in the big house. Everybody was back. Everybody was happy. It was like, everything was good, and they were playing well, and they were making some big plays, and Ronnie was making some big plays. And then something like this happens, and the energy in the big house, it just sucked everything out. You could tell. I just think it really speaks to how highly people think of Ronnie Bell. Obviously he makes a big impact on this team and in the locker room with those guys, and they care a great deal about him. And, I do think we'll see him back, but I just can't imagine after going through the difficulties of a COVID year, the long off season of preparation for this season, the anticipation, and you get to the second quarter and, your year is done. I can't imagine what that feels like, but we obviously, hope for a speedy recovery and want to see him back wearing the winged helmet.
Yeah. I mean, you'd think too. I mean, really good player. He's got to come back, right? I don't really know if he has another option. I mean, I don't know what his NFL grade looks like based on what he's done so far. I think this year was primed to be his best year. It was starting off that way.
Look at what he was doing.
Yeah. I mean, it was starting off that way. He was a captain, a leader, a senior, was really poised to have a big year. And now he's done. And he, the COVID year last year didn't really count. Plus, I assume he could probably do a medical for this year. He only played 2 quarters of football. So, coming back is going to be an option for him. And I think it's probably the most likely option. And he's, Ronnie Bell's kind of the epitome of a dude coming back and improving on whatever draft stock he might have. But we'll see. We'll see. Every situation is different for every guy. You let them, go through the process and figure out what works for them and do the best for them and their family. But certainly Michigan fans and the rest of the team would love to have him back for another season because, he was ready for a monster year, and he's a leader in that room, and he's bringing those other guys along. It's just a bummer, man. I talked about it. Jim Harbaugh talked about it today. What he expects Ronnie to do as a leader and a captain still. I asked Blake about it a little bit, and, it seems like he's going to shine in that role too, but obviously not having him on the field sucks in the worst way. So
it's just, I mean, it's just awful. Like there's no other way to look at it. You just really hate to see it for anybody. Obviously you don't want anybody to get injured, but for a guy like that, who was coming into a season where this was probably going to put him on the map. He was off to a hot start. And if he carried that momentum through the season, he's easily a draft pick, at the end of the year. I think you're right. I think he's got to come back, and man, what a story that's going to be if you see him back out on the field doing his thing.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, we are going to wrap up with our, favorite. I don't know if it's favorite. We don't know if we have favorite segments yet, but this is a good one. It's back and forth. It keeps us warm. It's burning questions. Ooh. You can hear the fire crackling back there. It's hot in here. You want to start? You want me to start?
Why don't you go ahead and lead us off?
I'll lead us off. Chris Breiler. Will Giles Jackson score a touchdown next week?
No. As a matter of fact, I believe that they targeted him on 4th down to keep the chains going against Montana. I think he dropped the ball. That essentially ended the game for Washington. I think Michigan's going to be up for this game, man. I think it's home. It's a maze out. It's at night. Washington right now is injured. They're teeter-totter, and I think Michigan is just they're coming in there to eat. I don't think he has a very productive day at all.
Yeah, I'm going to say no, too. I'm going to say he's kept out of the end zone. I think Michigan's defense they showed me something with the adjustments they made. I like that. Yes, it was Western. I expect Washington to be better. But, I mean, they couldn't score against Montana. I just really have some questions about how good that offense is for Washington. I think it's a combination of both things. I think Michigan's defense showed me a little something. And I think Washington's offense showed me a little something. So I'll say no as well. Giles Jackson does not score against his former team.
There we go, 0 for 0. Brandon, we saw over the weekend some top teams go down, right? North Carolina goes down. Washington obviously struggles against Montana. Clemson struggles big time against Georgia. I'm curious, is Michigan a top 25 team?
I'm saying no for one more week. I mean, I think I'm not going to pound the table in either direction. I think I'll put it that way. If somebody wants to vote him in, no, you know what? No, I don't. Coming off a 2-4, and there's still a lot of question marks, and they beat up on a MAC team. No, they're not. They're just not. I think if they win next week and it's even remotely, impressive, one-sided at all, then yes, you can start to put them in there in the 20s somewhere, probably 2-0, a couple big wins at home by a lot of points. Yes, but right now, no. Not after 2-4, and not after a very expected win over a Western Michigan team.
Yeah, I think they do slip in. I think they slip in because it was a convincing win. They had a couple of guys that were making some noise on social media. People were paying attention to what was going on in Michigan, and you had some of the top guys slip, and even some of the top ranked teams didn't have very convincing wins over the weekend. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see Michigan sneak into the top 25, somewhere between 20 and 25, but I think they'll be in there.
Okay. All right. Well, we just had a guy on that is going to factor into this question, Chris. It ended up being pretty much 50-50. It was 14 carries for Blake Corum, 13 for Hassan Haskins. Who is your starting running back week 2? Is this a no-brainer for you at this point?
It's always Blake Corum. Blake Corum is the guy that I think we say this every time we talk about him. I want the ball in his hands as often as possible, but I do like Hassan Haskins in certain situations. I like him in short yardage. I like him near the goal line. I think you could do some interesting stuff with the both of them. But, for me, especially based on what I saw on Saturday, you got to get the ball in his hands. He's too dynamic of a player not to.
I'm with you. I tweeted it out. It is. I can't stress this enough. It has nothing to do with Hassan Haskins. Yeah. I just love running backs like Blake Corum. Home run threats, super shifty, super quick. He's got some power. He can catch it. I mean, grab 100 Michigan fans and say, "Give me Blake Corum's weakness," and watch him look dumbfounded, because I don't think he has one. And Hassan Haskins doesn't really have a weakness either, but he's not as fast. He's not as shifty. You could probably make an argument he's a little more powerful than Blake Corum, but Blake Corum is a little ball of muscle, and he is low to the ground, and he is powerful. So, like you said, if Hassan Haskins is your short yardage back because he's bigger, stronger, has that forward lean, I don't think Blake Corum's getting blown backwards very much either. And so I just don't think – I don't know, man. It's a great problem to have. I mean, I'll say that. You've got two really good backs, and you can play them both, and they were both effective. But for me – I'm putting Blake Corum out there as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, and I think he spoke to it a little bit when we had him on. He's like, you're going to get tired. If you're doing what you're supposed to do out there, you're going to need a breather. So it's not like you're going to have two guys sitting on the sidelines the whole time. But if it's a decision of who's going to get the bulk of the carries, it's Blake Corum all day. Yeah,
I'm with you. I saw someone say, might have been Doug Karsh. Was it Doug Karsh on the radio today? I was driving to the availability, and I heard him say, or maybe it was a caller, and now I see a commenter saying that he's like a poor man's J.K. Dobbins right now. He runs like him. He's built like him. He's fast. He's got power. He's shifty, can catch it. I mean, he's basic. I know he played some last year, but he's basically a game into his substantial career. I mean, where he's going to be on the field a lot and a regular part of the rotation. I like that. I like that comparison a lot. They're very similar.
All right, Brandon, obviously with the tough news, Ronnie Bell going down, it's unfortunate, but Michigan does have a fairly loaded wide receiver room. They've got a lot of athletes in that group. So I'm curious, who do you think is going to be the wide receiver that steps up the most to soften the blow of losing Ronnie Bell?
That was the next question I was going to ask. I was a little more specific, so I'll add it to it and we can just tackle it together. Who's going to end up leading the team in receptions now? Because I think that would have been Ronnie Bell. I think the most obvious choice is Cornelius Johnson, because he's the other starter. He's the other guy that's going to be in there a lot. He had a pretty solid year last year, seemed to have a good rapport with Cade McNamara. And he's a good combination of a little bit of everything. He's bigger. He's got good speed. He can jump. He's got strong hands. He's good after the catch. I think he's going to be on the field just about every play. He just doesn't come off the field very much, especially now with Ronnie out. But the immediate kind of positional replacement for him was Roman Wilson. So I guess depending on how you answer our question, is it leading the team in receptions or is it who's the next one to step up? I think step up is Roman Wilson. I think leading the team in catches is Cornelius Johnson.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Who sort of steps in and fills the void? I would assume, I don't know if it's going to be one guy. I think it's going to be a collection of AJ Henning, Roman Wilson, and Mike Sainristil. Maybe those three guys taking up the bulk of what they're going to be missing from Ronnie Bell, because those guys to me represent that home run threat where, you can get them the ball in the flat like you could Ronnie Bell, or you can give them the ball on a slant and let them sort of use their athleticism to get down the field. So they've got plenty of weapons. But I do think probably Roman Wilson would be the guy to fill that void, although he didn't have a single reception week 1, which I was surprised.
Yeah. They've got a lot of options. It's just like we said before the season started, a lot of options, versatile talent, fast, not very proven.
The only thing I don't like is what happened in the punt return game once Ronnie went down. To me, it was like and did you get an answer on that today?
So Jim Harbaugh talked about that at length today. So heading into the game, obviously you're never counting on Ronnie Bell getting hurt. He was by far the number one option there, the best hands, good at returning, slippery, tough to bring down, all the things we talked about leading up to the game. And then when he goes down, they want to put their next sure-handed guy back there. That was Caden Colasar. But Jim Harbaugh said, unfortunately, Caden Colasar is like one of our best gunners. He's one of our best hold-up guys. He's one of our best punt blockers. So if you put him back there, you kind of remove all of the good things that he does. I don't know if it'll be this week because it's a quick turnaround, but eventually you see Caden Colasar back up towards the front on the line, blocking, holding guys up, maybe rushing the punter, and you're going to see AJ Henning back deep. I think that's what we will end up seeing, more dynamic, more speed back there. But AJ talked about that today too. He said, it's hard, man. Fielding punts is hard, and I'm still working on it, and I'm still getting better at it. So I think eventually he's the guy. He's your threat back there. But job number one is catching the ball. And if that's Colasar right now, then that's who's back there. So, that's something for Jay Harbaugh to figure out and work on this week. So I'm interested to see if they'll get that figured out in week 2 or if it's a work in progress before we see AJ Henning back there, because I think we will. I think before the season's over, he'll be the full-time punt returner.
How do you want to go to the next question since we knocked the 2 out at the same time?
Do I have how much time? Do I have 3? I have 2 left. What do you have left?
I got 3 left, so I'll take it.
You go ahead. Yep.
All right. JJ McCarthy, incredible pass throw across the field. It turned out, it worked. It worked in Michigan's favor, but it was against Western Michigan. And, you look at some of the bigger boys, once you get to the Michigan States or the Penn States or even Ohio State, a throw like that probably isn't going to be the best. So my question to you is that throw, that cross-field throw by JJ McCarthy, love it or hate it?
I love it at the time. Just let the kid cook, man. Let him spin it. Let him throw it around. Yeah. But you're right. And if you watched that Florida State Notre Dame game last night, you saw what an elite safety does with throws like that. Kyle Hamilton was all over the field. He had 2 picks. That's the kind of stuff you happen when you throw a moon ball, 60 yards across the field. It was awesome. It was beautiful to see, and you get Dalen Baldwin involved as well. He catches it and runs for a score. That is part of what makes JJ. He's a gunslinger. You see the clips all offseason with the 360 jump passes and stuff he's practicing. I mean, that's in his DNA. Coach Harbaugh talked about it after the game. They don't want to coach that out of him, but as a quarterback, I guarantee Jim Harbaugh was like, "Oh, don't do that," and then it worked. And it looks amazing, and it's all over social media, and it blows up. I mean, I love it. Michigan's up big. The kid's in there. He's spinning it. Let him spin it. But you can't. You most times cannot do that against a good team or an elite safety or a guy with a ton of range or speed back. Like, he doesn't want to do that against his own teammates. I don't. You know what I'm saying? In practice, and we heard about some of that during the spring and during the offseason, that he was making a few mistakes here and there, and he wasn't quite ready. But the talent, the arm talent's there. Blake mentioned the stiff arm, the mobility, getting away, setting his feet. He took it on the chin, and he throws a rope 60 yards down the field, and they score a touchdown on it. So, long answer to a short answer. I love it, but be careful, young man. Be careful.
Same boat. It's like when I watch my son do something he shouldn't do, but he does it well, and I'm like, I'm like, you know what? Like, all right, that was cool. Just don't do it again, And that's kind of where that's maybe not entirely accurate because you're right. And Harbaugh spoke to it that it is part of, JJ's DNA and what makes him him. And so, if he's got that ability and that type of confidence, we haven't seen that at the University of Michigan in such a long time. Like, I feel like we've had guys like Cade McNamara here doing what they do, but we haven't had a guy like JJ McCarthy who, will go out and sling the ball across the field and just has that kind of, there's just something different. He's wired a little bit different, man. And so, yeah, I loved it. I do wonder though, how productive it's going to be against some of the bigger teams.
So that's a perfect segue into my next question, and I'm going to present it to you without any facial expressions or opinions. Are you ready? I need you to look at me for this one. Does Michigan have a quarterback controversy?
No, Michigan does not have a quarterback controversy. They have 2-3 solid quarterbacks that they can use if need be. We've seen starting quarterbacks go down, get injured, and if something were to happen to Cade or if something were to happen to JJ, they've got guys that can come in and be good enough to keep Michigan on track to where they're going or where they hope to get. So no, I don't think there's a controversy, but I will say, I'll go back to a conversation we had, I think before the season even started. I do not think J.J. McCarthy will sit on the bench for 2 years. So regardless of what happens with Cade McNamara this year, if he is not, I'm talking like elite impressive, this is going to be J.J.'s deal next year.
I'm with you. I don't think there is a controversy. I saw it floated. I actually thought it was interesting because I think there are some people firmly in the JJ camp, and I mean you were a pretty big advocate for if there's going to be some growing pains this year, if you're not going to win the Big Ten, if you just put the young guy out there, let him get confident, let him get a year under him so that next year he's the man and he's ready to roll. I don't know if you're backing off of that stance now after seeing how efficient.
No, I'm still was.
There. Okay, well there you go. So I think
I saw enough to where I liked enough of what I saw from him to where if that's the way he's going to play, I would love watching JJ out there all day on Saturday.
I think some people are thinking like, cool, Cade 9 for 11. I like get the young buck in there, man. Get him in there. Who cares? Let him in there. He obviously has something. He has the it factor, like we said, the DNA, the gunslinger mentality, all the cliches you hear about the quarterbacks who kind of fly by the seat of their pants a little bit, but it's fun. It's fun, and he's talented, and he's more mobile. And I don't know. I don't think so. I think Cade's the guy right now. If he is the best guy, and he was the best guy all the way through camp, then that's who you play. That's who you can win with more right now. But I mean that question, that throw makes you go a little bit.
I do want to say though, while yahoos like you and I talk about is there a controversy who should be starting, I thought it was awesome to see Cade come over to JJ before he went in and kind of hug him and sort of, I don't know what he said to him, but I just think like it's those little things that I just think there's something different in this team. And I think, Blake spoke to it that, if Ronnie goes down, we've got other guys, like we're all playing for each other here. And we don't, what did he say? We don't have any energy vampires or something like that sucking the energy out. I think somebody
said that earlier this offseason. But it's a good term. Or no, I think that was a basketball thing. I think Juwan Howard and the basketball players said that before.
Well, that was an interesting statement from Blake, and it just goes to show that they've got something special on this team. I don't know if it's going to translate talent-wise in wins and losses, but they have got something special in the locker room, and it's really nice to see that.
Just got word of exactly what Cade McNamara said to JJ before he went.
What was it?
We went out, huh?
That's what he said.
What happens if we went out, huh?
That's what he said. They were ready to go. All right. I think this is my last one. Is this my last one?
Let's hear it.
Washington loses to Montana. I don't think I ever asked this question to you before, but I'm going to ask it now to kind of bring it full circle and combine it together.
We might have the same question here, just so you know.
Okay. I mean, we'll see. Yeah. Before last week, what was your worry number on Washington, 1 through 10, and what is it now?
All right, so we're going to parlay because my question to you is, does the loss to Montana Saturday make you less nervous or more nervous? So
same type of thing, yeah.
Yeah, same type of question. For me, I I'm more nervous because as a Michigan fan, I feel like you kind of get conditioned to, you feel like you're going to be snake bitten. Like, I feel like this is a game based on what happened last week, and this is a game Michigan should win. It's in the big house. It's a night game. It's a maze out. You know, they showed some really good things week one. But I think Washington's going to come to Ann Arbor really pissed off. You know, they've been the butt of a lot of jokes over the last couple of days, and I think they're going to want to show that, you know, they're a legit top 20 team. And so I think the loss actually makes me a little bit more concerned for Saturday.
That's interesting. I didn't think you would go there because for me, I don't know how a solid, talented team can lose to a team like that.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I don't know anything about Montana. I didn't watch that game. I saw some cut-ups of it afterwards. Obviously saw the final score, saw that they lost. So I don't really know what Montana brought to the table. But to me, that's like a roll out of bed and win game. Like that's an FCS. You paid them a bunch of money to come to your stadium and beat up on them, and you lose. That's just not supposed to happen. So I guess if I was going to do the quantifying thing and put a number on it, I was probably at like a 7 worry before last week, and now I think I'm at like a 6. I think it went down for me a little bit. I just don't think Washington's as good as I expected them to be. I had heard about their defense. Now, they did lose, I think, their best defensive player before the season started. It's been a while now. But, I just don't know how a team that's supposed to be pretty good and was viewed as a dark horse competitor in the Pac-12 and a top 20 team loses that game. I don't know how you do that at home. I don't know. So to me, they're not as good as I thought they were going to be. And now I think Michigan could and should win that game. And I think Michigan's a 6-point favorite. I think the line came out today at 6 or 6.5. Coming all the way from the west coast to Michigan to play, that's tough. I mean, I'm still a little bit concerned. I still think it's a huge game. It's a fork in the road game. It's going to dictate what happens, but I'm not as worried about them as I was last week. I don't think they're as good as I thought they were going to be.
All right, I got a question for you because we spent all offseason talking about this is the fork in the road game. This is, we kept pointing to this game. Does that loss last weekend, does that take some of the shine off of this, or does it still have the same type of impact on the remainder of the season that we thought it was going to have beforehand?
I think it takes a tad bit of the shine off because now instead Washington being like 17th or 18th in the country, they're going to be unranked. It's just going to, on the surface, it's not going to look like that big of a game. 2 unranked. Well, maybe Michigan's ranked. I don't know. We'll see. But possibly 2 unranked teams playing now instead of 2 ranked teams playing, if that is how it plays out. But anyway,
I mean, do you view the pendulum? If they get the win, are you still leaning more towards 9 now? Like, is it going to shift anything for you based on what happened?
And then Indiana goes out and gets its ass whooped by Iowa. That was another loss that I saw for Michigan that I just wasn't sure about because of how it looked last year. Indiana wins by 17. It wasn't really that close. I mean, it was on the road. I still think it's a big pendulum game. I still think what they do against Washington on Saturday will determine what they do moving forward and what that win total looks like. I still think it's a huge game. I still think Washington has talent. I still think they're going to be better than Western Michigan. Even, like I said, I think if they played Montana 50 more times, they'd win 50 of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's why I'm concerned about it, is because I do think it's so.
It was just a turd of a day.
It was one of those things, and that's why I'm concerned about it, because it was so insane and it shouldn't have happened, that I just think they're going to be better than a lot of people think they're going to be this coming weekend. I think we're going to be in for a good game. But the other thing, we had Michigan losing Wisconsin. I think both of us had Michigan losing that game. Penn State goes up to Madison and takes care of business there. And so, I don't know. I don't feel as confident about, I still feel confident about the 9 wins, but I don't feel as confident anymore that Washington is the fork in the road game. I don't know that a win against Washington, if they stink as much as they did last weekend, is really going to tell anybody much of anything. I mean, if they're that bad, you're not going to learn much more than you learned against Western.
It actually makes me want to jump off here and do a little homework about that game and what happened, kind of how it played out, what Washington did and didn't do, and what kind of team Montana is, because I don't know. I don't know that much about them even after the game. I saw the score, a couple highlights, and that was about it. So full disclosure, I'm not an expert on it yet. We'll continue to work on that as the week goes along. We'll have somebody stop by and talk with us about Washington, but Yeah, man, if those weren't some burning questions, man, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. Burning questions. Faded out right there. Well,
great show.
What a great show. We're an hour and 14 minutes in. Really want to thank Blake Corum again for stopping by. If any of his family's in here still, man, what a proud bunch of folks you are right now after watching him do that on Saturday. It was awesome for us to see. And again, as we have these guys on, you get to know them a little bit, and it's cool to see them succeed. And obviously, we wanted Michigan to show some things, and they did. They did. They wanted to run the ball. They did. We wanted to see if that defense would adjust and do some things differently. They certainly did. Again, Western Michigan, we'll see. But I think Western Michigan was supposed to have a pretty good offense, and Michigan handled them. After that first touchdown drive, it was pretty much nothing until some mop-up stuff against some backups. So, got to be pretty optimistic about that. But this Washington game, man, it is coming up, and I think it's still big. I do. I think it's still really big. Yeah, quick question real quick here. Mays jerseys on Saturday? I think we talked about this.
I think so.
I think that's what it's going to be.
I think you're going all blue, right? You're leaning more towards all blue?
I just feel like they trotted those all blues a lot to recruits and photo shoots and stuff like that, and night game, kind of play the contrast off what the crowd's supposed to do.
Could we get a Mays top, blue bottom?
We didn't see that, I don't think, in any photos.
I think we did.
Man. Did we? I don't know if I remember seeing that one. Maybe that was out there. But, we'll see. I do think they're going to wear one or the other this Saturday. I think it's either going to be all. I think
we can count on an alternate.
Yeah, sounds like it. Sounds like it. Well, there you have it. Again, condolences. That's probably too strong of a word. Thoughts and prayers up to Ronnie Bell. Just sucks, man. Golly, he was off to such a good start, and now he's done for the year. See what those other receivers can do. Blake Corum, Hassan Haskins looks like a two-headed monster that not a lot of teams have. And I don't know. I don't want to do predictions yet because we're going to do that later in the week, right? But I'm already thinking about that Washington game and what that's going to look like. The spread is there. I don't know, Chris. What do you think, man?
I think victory. I got him at the 9 wins, man, so I'm sticking with what I had.
We will be back on Wednesday. What's our Wednesday segments looking like? Wednesday, what are we going to get into? Wednesday is recapping some topics I'm going to hit up on the radio. We'll have an opponent preview with somebody from the Washington Sports Illustrated site. Looking forward to that. And whatever other shenanigans we get into, you know what to expect at this point. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back on Wednesday.